Good morning, everyone. Today we've got some pretty exciting stuff going on. It is the Bot Bowl One. Let me tell you what this competition is all about. We've got a competition for Blood Bowl AIs to play against each other. This is the final. So please, let me first just say, no spoilers. These games actually took place about 3 weeks ago. We've got one, two, three, four Blood Bowl AIs were entered into this final, and they played a big round robin. Two of them made it through, and we'll be watching a best of five series between those two AIs. Okay. Let me give you all a link. You can actually, that's kind of spoilery too. Botbowl.com. BOWL. So you can go there for more information. We can tell you there are some scholarly articles. The whole thing was put together by a fellow named Niels Justesen from Copenhagen, Denmark, and his collaborators over there. And video games have, well, they've been an interesting area of AI research. Well, games just have been since even before the term AI was coined. One of the first things people thought of when they, oh, look, we've got computers, let's teach it how to play chess. And computers have gotten pretty good at chess, and we've tried to apply that to other things. Blood Bowl is a particularly difficult game for a computer to learn how to play for a lot of reasons, and we'll see how some of those struggles happen as we go along. Anyway, let me introduce you to the four competitors. That's the old Bot Bowl AI webpage. I want to be careful because this does actually spoil the results later on in the page. We've got four submissions and a little bit of a cut and paste thing. So A2C is on there twice. I want to start with Grodbot because it's the simplest to understand. Grodbot, Peter Moore, his name is Grod, and he's been working on his Blood Bowl AI concept for many years now. It's been a long-term project for him. Grodbot is you might call it a naive sort of setup. I mean, I don't mean that in any disparaging way at all because it works very well. What's the first thing you think of? You're like, well, I'll make an AI that plays Blood Bowl. Well, I'll code in all sorts of Blood Bowl knowledge, and that's really what he's done. When they call it a scripted bot using a great deal of domain knowledge, that means basically he's taught it to play Blood Bowl. It's him by himself. It knows what a cage looks like and how to put one together, which puts it above puts it above a lot of human people I know. And that sort of thing is just built in. It doesn't try to learn how to play better as it goes along. It just knows what it does, and it does it pretty well. The other bots are all the more well, they're all based on more sophisticated modern AI techniques, where they start out not really knowing anything about the problem of playing Blood Bowl, and they try to learn as they go along. Whether you start out just making random moves and thinking, well, random moves, I lost. Let's try some different random moves. And well, I lost again. Let's keep trying until we get better. And eventually, you find some moves that work. You win a game, and you think, well, we got to keep those, and we'll try and keep the moves that work well, and not so much the ones that don't. A2C, a deep reinforcement learning bot based on A2C that uses reward shaping. Anytime you see A something C, Well, what the A and the C stands for actor critic. A2C is advantage actor critic. There's also an A3C and so on. Uh, the, the technique there is that you have two separate sort of things watching the game. You have the actor who's actually making your moves, and he has one sort of set of things that he likes to do. And then there's a critic that watches his moves and says, "This was terrible. Do something different." So it decouples playing moves in your game and deciding if they were good or not. So the two sort of learn separately and kind of converge. It's not something you really need to worry too much about. But that's the concept, and that's the sort of thing that a lot of modern learning type AIs are using. I'm a little suspicious about it for Blood Bowl, just because of the way the game is structured. You don't get a lot of positive feedback as you play Blood Bowl. Most moves don't really lead to a clear mathematical advantage, and a lot of games are just decided 1-0, 2-1. So if you're just looking at it and saying, "Well, I scored," yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean anything good. I mean, it's better than not scoring, right? But it's not. Uh, it's not a game like chess where you can say, "Well, I just lost my queen. That's a bad move." If your actor opens a turn with a really smart move and rolls double skulls, the critic is going to look at that and say, "Well, look at that. Your turn ended really early and you didn't accomplish anything bad." And I guess it's the computer has learned it's learned to not roll double skulls, which doesn't really help it very much. But again, that's Blood Bowl. It's tricky. So that's A2C. No One is another bot that also is based on A2C. Uh, he's trying it's trying to knock down opponent players, so that's nice. They've I guess what that means is that the critic is saying, move towards the ball, take your 2 dice blocks, keep the ball safe, which are good things for a critic to do. Grodbot we've seen, that's just the bot that knows how to play Blood Bowl, and Evo Grod. That's well, these gentlemen started with Grodbot and have replaced the heuristic function. What that is uh, the bot looks at what moves it might make. It decides based on maybe position and all sorts of various factors uh, which of two moves are better, and that's usually done by just kind of looking forward and saying, well, if I move my blitzer 1 square to the left, then there's a big hole here. That's a big negative. And if I move my blitzer 5 squares to the right, this is a little better. The second position gets a score of 0.6, and the first position gets a score of 0.2. That's better, and that's how the game is deciding which moves to play. Uh, EvoGrad has replaced that with an evolutionary algorithm. That's another learning type. It works sort of genetically. This is a weird concept, but it actually does work pretty well. Basically, what you do is you start with a bunch of different uh, ways to decide what move to play, and the ones that win, you take little pieces from them and throw them together, like survival of the fittest, basically evolution. Um, if you think of maybe uh, the systems that are deciding what moves to play as genes, uh, then you take some good genes from the different AIs that win. You mix them up a little bit. You throw them together like reproduction, sort of, and your next generation of AIs that are made from that should play a little better, and then you can repeat that process, and eventually the genes that are strong and make good plays will result in a better AI. So that's how evolutionary learning is supposed to work. So what we have, the first round of the tournament was a big round robin between the four bots, and they also threw in a bot that makes random moves, just as sort of a control. So so this is what we got. Gridebot and EvoBot destroyed the random bot and winning all 10 games, as you would expect. The A2C bot struggled a bit, was unable, well, no wins, 17 draws and 23 losses. 17 draws are probably all nil-nil. But you can see from the record there were two definite strong competitors. That's Gridebot and the Evo bot. So those two are the ones we'll see this morning. They made it to a final, and they're playing against each other in a best of five. I don't want to scroll any farther down because that's where it spoils things. So let's instead put this away. And I have a video that just shows all the games. I know this is a little difficult for people to look at. I know if you're used to playing the Cyanide client, then the graphics are pretty nice. What we're going to see are based on Fumble graphics. Uh, we'll start. This is the fixed lineup for both teams. They didn't have a choice about this. It's all res. Each team has humans with 12 rookie players. That's the linemen. If it helps you any, the linemen have these little spiky pads on their shoulders. The catchers are pretty clear. They've got their big catcher mitts. The thrower, the thing that helps me is that their helmet has a really wide white spike on it, and the blitzers have these big face guards. Anyway, these are the rosters both teams are using: 7 linemen, 2 catchers, a thrower, and 2 blitzers. They're all, again, rookies. Each team has 3 rerolls, 1 assistant coach, 2 cheerleaders, and something like 3 fan factor. That's just how they're all set up. Also notable, no apothecary for either team. That's pull intro here. So let's just start and see how things go. We'll be watching Gridebot in red and Evo in blue. Uh, and right away, I think we can see one of the the big differences between a human player and an AI. No human player would set up like this on defense. Evograd is the defensive side. They're in blue. This isn't really a failure of AI so much as it's just a failure of scripting. It's a failure of opening book. If you're familiar with chess, an AI that plays chess doesn't just start from the opening position and think for half an hour and say, I guess I'll play e4. No, they've got their first moves all scripted because we know the first moves are pretty good and people have been studying them for hundreds of years. Here, well, things are completely symmetrical. So I don't think the bots are confused about who's on offense and who's on defense. It's just that they just have one setup, and it's not a very good one. First of all, the defense, of course, shouldn't have more than 3 players on the line of scrimmage, and they've got 6. That's just giving up a whole lot of blocks. Defense, at least, you can pretty easily handle this just by having a better scripted setup. Rule of 5 would be fine for starting the game for pretty much every team. You might also have a couple of other things like a wide setup, but We even got a blitzer in line of scrimmage. This is a blitzer. Uh, that's the other blitzer. There's no reason for these guys to be here. That looks like a thrower. Why is he on the line of scrimmage? I don't know. It should just be two linemen and then a third lineman, and then these three guys should be safe somewhere. So that's kind of a disappointment, but that's the sort of thing that's not really difficult to fix. The harder part of things to fix is that the offense has made the exact same setup. First of all, if you're gonna have a thrower, he's probably the guy who should be back catching the ball, right, and not just a random lineman. Catchers are all right where they are. If depending on your plan, if you want to score quickly, then yeah, this is the catcher you'd have running away, and the other one would probably be either with him or off to the other side. But I don't mind having a catcher back here to cover any kind of a dangerous looking kick in case things get pressured. The point is, what you should have. How do you punish the defense from putting six men on line of scrimmage? You need to have more of guys on your own. Everybody here is all strength 3, right? And there's no guard or anything, so we're looking at a bunch of one dice blocks. You need to put one more person, probably just right here, because he can start by blocking this fellow out of the way, and then he's here as an assist, and you can just block down the line and get 2 dice blocks on everybody without having to move. There are the 2 blitzers are here, but everybody else is defenseless. No block, no dodge, anything. You should just be punching these guys, trying to get a quick advantage. It's the sort of thing that's like obvious to the human eye, but uh, it's not easy to teach a computer how to take advantage of something like this, right? Uh, yeah, like a chess AI, for example, is used to playing against experts. It's if it sees something really crazy like this, it doesn't have the knowledge built into it on how to punish it. But you should just be maximizing blocks, right? And the way to do that is to have another person or two. Let's see what GrodBot does. It opens with a 1 die block. That's this fellow here making a block. And it's all 1 dice or skulls. And so that could easily have been a 2 dice block. Even with the setup, you just take one of these players that isn't doing anything important right now and just move them into this square. And then you can, well, I guess you would have to blitz. But if you start with this blitz, 1, 2, hit him, and then suddenly you have all sorts of 2 dice blocks. That's one way to do it. You could also bring just a player to here, that gets him out, and then whoops, sorry about that. If you have a player here, then this is a 2 dice block, and then you can bring someone. But the point is, you're going to need somebody in this square, and then you can make all sorts of blocks. So it started with a 1 die block. That's a little shocking. And it's a skull, but he instantly rerolls it. GrodBot did get a reroll on the kickoff. That was cheering fans. So it's you pretty much have to take that reroll because otherwise your opponent has all the same blocks that you're just giving up. So it works out. He gets a push, and ooh, it's not a very good push. The way he's blocked is to get this guy out of the way. If you're not familiar with fumble graphics, this player is kind of grayed out. That means his turn is over. Later, we'll see line slashes through people to indicate that they've been knocked down, and a double line for stunned. But the block that GrodBot has chosen to take doesn't really it doesn't free anybody. So his next block is also a 1 die. He wasn't. If you get this guy out of the way first, for example, then this player is an assist. So you can make everything else 2 dice. And it's one thing to maximize dice, but you need to maximize safer dice. especially not one dice blocks when the ball is on the ground right here and there's nobody covering it. But this time it works out. It's a skull. I'm sorry, it's POW into a CAS. So casualty box, yeah, this player was here. He's now injured and gone. No app was available, so that's just it. Finally does pick the ball up on a catcher, and he sends his other catcher deep. Is the bot intending to try and score quickly? Maybe. We'll see. At least he now finally has some blocks. This is 2 dice, and that'll set up some 2 dice blocks here. Human catchers are move 8, though. He's well within scoring range if you want to throw it to him. Ideally, this player here, that's the thrower. He should have the ball if you are going to throw the ball. And there, that's a line through. This player was knocked down on a 1 die block as well. Finally gets a 2 dice, and let's go back just a skosh. Finally gets 2 dice block, and rolls some double skulls. So Grotbot is not the bot that's with a learning algorithm, but if it did, it would probably learn a lesson from this turn that 1 dice blocks are good and 2 dice blocks are skulls, and that's not the right lesson to learn. That's just again the structure of Blood Bowl makes it difficult for a learning AI to get the right kind of feedback it needs to get better. Grodbot has marked up the catcher, brought his own catcher around. Positioning seems all right. He's dedicated an awful lot to stopping this guy, but dropping these players back, it seems like they don't need to be that far back. Yeah, you could certainly have a few guys closer to the line of scrimmage, and you don't need 4 people shutting down this catcher. But the positioning is cool. There are 2 squares here, 2 squares here. So even if you blitz off this fellow, there's no path to the end zone for this catcher. So he's the bot said, I'm not going to let you score quickly, and that's that's questionable too. It's one of those really counterintuitive things of Blood Bowl strategy. Is that if your opponent wants to score early in their offensive half, you should usually just let them. All right, so Evo Guard has tried itself a 1 dice block here as well, and took them both down. So that's the end of its turn. The ball is not really safe, but we'll see what Grabbot does with it. What's its goal here? Gonna stand up and take some reasonable blocks to free up a man. Gets 2 dice with block on his blitz to hit this fellow. Oh my gosh, he's just gonna give the catcher. Catcher has just run through, handed the ball off in a tackle zone. So now this is the other catcher. He's strength 2. He's now holding the ball. Where is he going? He can only be dodging right through to try and score quickly. So that's a bit of a mess. Taking some unsafe blocks first. And yeah, he's just dodging right through. And it didn't work out. He tried to make this, what's this, a 4+, 4+, 4+, 3+ dodge. No, there's nothing sensible about that play. That's the bot saying, I got to score, right? And you would think, scoring a touchdown, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But no, and if your goal is to score right there, there's really nothing better. But your goal should not be to score there. Your goal should be to just hang on to the ball and keep it safe, and maybe run this guy around at the end, but certainly not while he's holding the ball. So that's a turnover. He's lost the ball. It could scatter. We'll find out. All right, so he's KO'd himself. The catcher is out KO'd, and the ball is scattered here, and all of a sudden things look much better for Evo. That's just way too aggressive. And what are they going to do? We'll pick the ball up on the man who was just right next to it, and he failed to pick up. Another 1-9, really game. So Evo Grad is now getting dice. What's Gradbot going to do here? He's still got a catcher. I hope he doesn't just dodge through and try to pick it up and run in and score. Although, again, if your goal is to score right away, that's your only play. You have the 2 dice block to clear this guy up. That's one less dodge you need to make. You can blitz one of these 2 linemen. Ideally, you blitz this guy off the ball, but that's probably not going to be possible. So you can make this block here and this block here. Maybe this blitzer will then be free to hit this guy. You've got people free over here. This is also a blitzer. He can get in to help. Clear that guy out of the way. You can run right through. And all you have to do is make a single. Well, it's a 4+3+ the 4+ pickup. So not promising, but at this point you've kind of backed yourself into a corner, and there aren't too many great moves to make. He's marked the ball. He's whoa, hold on. He's pushed this thrower, but the way he pushed him is to here and not to here, which means more dodges. Uh, the block should have been pretty obviously just to get this guy off your catcher. Instead, he's pushed him to a square where he's still marking the catcher, so that the block didn't really accomplish much. At least he's pouring people through, and whatever risky moves he's going to try with his catcher, he'll do it at the end of his turn, so that's good. Okay, he's just dodged out and come back around this way. I don't think there's any reason to base this fellow. It does keep this catcher slightly contained, but not really, because again, this is a guy with dodge. It's just a 1-9 to get out in either direction to the side. We'll see where they go. Basing the ball hasn't helped. It's just a 2 dice to clear him. That's okay. And Evograd has successfully picked the ball up, and now he's sending his catchers out as wide receivers. This one's gone out to be a scoring threat. This one looks like he's going to try to do the same thing. Ball not really secured at the moment. It's 2 dice block here, and then somebody can swing around. These guys are free as well. That can come down here. So 2 dice on the ball. You need to protect the ball. And he's doing some of that. He's cut off these players with his linemen. I like that. And Grogbot knows how to get to the ball from here. This probably should be a follow. I guess it doesn't really matter. You can still get this player around. So probably what'll happen is guys will come towards the ball, and you have a 2 dice blitz on it. The the screen is interesting. It does keep any of these players from getting back. The bots do know how to screen, so that's kind of neat. Is he hitting the ball with somebody? Doesn't look like it. He's just What was that last block there? All right, so he's built up a screen. He based the ball twice instead of blitzing one of them. And he's just taking a one dice block into a skull. So I'm not sure why he didn't hit the ball here. I mean, it would have been nice to try and sack him. There wasn't really much in the way of recovery, just because everybody else was kind of doing the screen thing. But if you can get the ball loose, you've cut half the blue team off. So maybe long term, this won't be so bad. The blitzer tried to dodge away. All right, so he's knocked the ball loose, but a different man caught it. And it's turned into a mess. This is the kind of mess that's probably favorable to red. I mean, blue is running out of time to try and counterscore. If anything goes wrong, the ball's on the ground, it's near where the red end zone would be. But it's really it's hard to say. So guys are making weird blocks. Red just picked it up and waltzed into the end zone. So congratulations, Grodbot, for somehow recovering that. Uh, Wait, what just happened there? High kick. You're not allowed to take a man from the line of scrimmage who's marked, are you? I've already forgotten how high kick works, but I don't think you're allowed to use one of these guys. Maybe I'm just wrong and it's early morning and I'm just confused. There's desktop one. There's LRB6. Where are the kickoffs? They're around page 18-ish, right? Kickoff table. High kick. Player on the any player on the receiving team who's not in the opposing player's tackle zone. Yeah, I am right. You're not allowed to do that. So what's happened is both teams have used the exact same setup here in Evograd's turn 7. They've got 2 turns to try and counter. This is not a 2-turning offensive setup, and this is not a 2-turn stopping the defense setup. It's just the only setup they seem to know. Finally, that is a bug. High kick. They took a blitzer off the line of scrimmage and put him under the ball, but you're not allowed to do that. So I don't think much is going to happen here in the last couple of turns. He's at least got 1 scoring threat, and okay, now he's got 2 scoring threats, but he tried to make some GFIs and failed and KO'd himself. So Grodbot, it's your turn 8. What you should be doing here, we have exactly 1 scoring threat. You need to shut this man down before you do anything else. Because you're not going to score on your own. This is turn 8. You take a guy, you put him over here. You can. Oh, these guys are a little far away. Actually, you should probably be hitting with this guy because you can use both catchers to come over here, and then you got a 3 dice blitz. That's probably the play. Alternatively, if you could free a few people up, you can blitz and push him into contact with this catcher, who would then get a follow-up block, and that's tempting too. I think I would just take the 3 dice. Neither bot is safe to reroll. So it's still, things are a little risky, but this is your only scoring threat. That's the man you have to worry about. You don't need to go after the ball, although he did just try and dodge towards the ball and it did not work. All right, so I think one thing we've seen so far. Oh, look at that! He's run this guy down. Probably should have tried to give him the ball first, right? Because the player is over here somewhere. He's not in the tackle zone. If you're going to have to make a pass, or maybe you can knock a few of these guys down and then you just run through and hand it off to him. That's certainly better than having to run a guy through and then throw a long pass here. Also, where's your thrower? It's a little tricky to see. But this man here was KO'd. That's the thrower, so there's no thrower to throw the ball. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for Evograd, and now we're into the second half. And both teams, yeah, they both have that one single setup. All right, so Evograd has got a 4-3 roll for this turn and has already needed to use it. Well, the two bots are pretty similar, right? You've got Grodbot, and Evo is uh, based on Grodbot. It's built on Grodbot with a learning algorithm put into it. Uh, so you would expect them to do some similar sorts of things, and both have started their offensive half with a one dice block into a skull. But both got a 4-3 roll on their offensive kickoff, so it's not such a big loss. We re-roll it into a POW, and things are okay. This time was a much better block. This is a one die that's avoidable, but at least it turns following blocks into two dices. So this is much better than what we saw Grod do in the first half. Again, that's the thrower on the line of scrimmage, ready to do some thrower blocks instead of carrying the ball. The catcher tried to pick the ball up, but he doesn't have sure hands like the thrower does. So he failed to pick up, and now it's on the ground. Uh, Grogbot starts by setting up some blocks. It doesn't really work. And also rolls a one die skull. He's also committing pretty heavily to the top side here. I don't know. What are you bringing this guy here for? He doesn't. It's not an assist on either player. And this push doesn't really work either. Uh, so Evo needs to score, and probably the way to do that is to just try and punch right through the middle, cut some of these players off. But it's difficult. You're two men down, and you've got a bit of a struggle on your hands. Uh, that's actually a good question. I don't think there's anything dictated that says you have to start in this format, in this formation. Evo does have a bit of a cage setup. This is now filled in as well. So, as I said earlier, the Grodbot knows how to build a cage, which puts it ahead of several human players I know. And Evo Grod, again, has all that knowledge as well coded into it. So he's built a cage, and the ball is, for the moment, safe. He's in a difficult position, Blue. He's two men down, and now the ball is based, so he's screwed. He needs to score here on his offense, and there's no easy way to do it. Red is dropped back into a screen. There's no reason for some of this to be here. Are you worried about this lineman dodging through? Probably not. See, having a couple of safeties back is all right, but you don't need four. You don't need all this, especially. Oh, well, actually, it's not awful in a psychological standpoint because we know that Blue is likely to try and just dodge right through. But I don't think the bots are thinking psychologically. Anyway, what is blue going to do to try and get through this? Here's your turn. Probably what you have to do is blitz this guy to get him off there, and then you have a block here. You can try and reform your cage a little farther up the field. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can make 4 or 5 squares of progress. That's pretty good, isn't it? That seems reasonable. He's not standing up to catcher, probably because he's going to use him to run away later and dodge. Oh, what are we doing about the guy basing the ball here? He's blocking with the ball carrier and double skulls. So that's an obvious reroll, and he follows up. I mean, the whole point of bringing all these guys here, he's got 3 assists. 2 of them are unnecessary. Well, 2 assists because the catcher still has not stood up. And the whole point of that block is, I guess, if you're going to do it, is so that the ball carrier is not in contact with the enemy. And instead, he just follows up. Does that mean he wants to blitz with the catcher? He does need 2 assists for that, but he could have used some of these players that weren't doing anything else. So I guess the catcher blitzes through here, and in the end, the ball is reasonably safe. So this is not the way a human would have done it, I don't think, but didn't work. I've just ended his turn with this catcher on the ground. Or is that the backslash? Meaning he was stunned. That could be me being wrong. And yeah, okay. People in chat are telling me the same thing. I thought the stun was a double X. So maybe he was stunned, and then you couldn't really use him for anything. But in that case, if your final move of the turn is going to be to follow up and put yourself in contact with the ball, uh, that seems questionable. Pretty easy to clear this fellow and then just block the ball. You don't even need to clear him. You can just bring someone in to cancel this assist. There's no way to get an assist on the ball unless you use this fellow to do it and then you blitz. So maybe you can bring a couple people in to mark these guys. You hit this player like that, get him off the ball. Then you hit the blitzer actually pushes this fellow out of the way. And the end result is that he is an assist on the ball and somebody else can come in and blitz. It might be possible to arrange something like that. Again, Crowdbot doesn't need to score, so I don't know if it's going to adjust its play at all because the goal right now is not necessarily to score a touchdown, but simply to get the game over with and win 1-0. It looks like he's going to try and play conservatively. Right, he's this is how the bots do positional. Everybody is in kind of a 2 squares off or 2 squares off this way, a little diagonally. It's a net that you can't dodge through. And even if let's say this catcher gets blitzed down and dies, right? Then there's still no dodging paths through anywhere. So it's just a deep double screen. I guess this is how the computers do elk screening, and it looks like it should be reasonably effective. It's not. I mean, these guys could be farther up, right? You could just have an elf screen. So they're not really in the best of position to take advantage of if the ball does get popped loose or anything. But defensively, this seems safe enough. What is he doing? Oh, he just dodged away. I had a man basing the ball and dodged away from contact to put another player back here to GFI to this square. So really passive, but it's it's not clear what the other AI can do to get through here. Remember, again, blue is 2 men down. Let's keep an eye on this fella to see if he gets unstunned, if that's what happens. No, he still got the same one line through him. Okay, so he just stood up. I guess he was no longer stunned. Possibly that's all it was, and I'm just not understanding the interface. And yeah, hello, Mr. Squirrel Dude. You're probably right. Especially in the early development of AI for a game, it makes sense to try and play passively and positionally, and let the AI itself just destroy its own position, your enemy. That is how various chess grandmasters used to beat computers. You just play super solid and defensive, and wait for it to do something too aggressive, and then destroy its own position. And then you can counterattack. I'm not sure if that's what the bots are thinking, but it's pretty good strategy if it works. Okay, so Evo has left a big gap here. It looks like Grodd is thinking about taking advantage, and all of a sudden he's turned and said, "All these guys that are deep, let's bring a few of them forward, and then bring some of them backwards again." So he's based the ball, but he's not going to try and do anything to get it free, which is not terrible either. Look at that. Remember, this is res. You don't. It's near the end of the game. There's no overtime or anything. You don't have to keep your catcher alive for much longer than this. As it stands, Evo took a block with the ball carrier, and now is only going to have 3 turns left to score. So it seems like he's running out of time. And I wouldn't want to be blue here either. Trying to score, it's this big net of players is going to be difficult to get through. He's now 3 men down. All right, 8 against 11, and what do you do? Are you setting up a chain? I think almost certainly not. No, he's just blocking with the ball carrier again. So this is the bot not recognizing the urgency of the position. It needs to score, and it's running out of time. And yeah, sure, you're getting blocks on these catchers, and you're hitting people, but that's not what you need right now. Grodd has, ooh, well, okay. He's just dodging this player away to complete his screen. He's actually kind of giving us a little bit of an opening. If you're blue, you need to try and get around. It's going to be even harder for blue now. Both of their catchers are out, so they don't have the high movement players. One blitzer is out as well. Where's the other blitzer? He is he carrying the ball? He must be carrying the ball because we can't really see what's happening here because the ball is very large and spiky. But well, I mean, if this dodge fails and this guy gets knocked down, then all of a sudden Evo has a big opening, right? You can bring someone over here, you can 2 dice this guy out of the way, and you can just potato up this sideline. You can even maybe screen with a couple of players over here to keep all these guys out of the play, and you have a chance. It's not a great chance, but it's a chance you probably shouldn't have. And now things are a little more difficult because he makes his dodge and gets out. At the end of his turn, tries to dodge his last catcher out of the way. That doesn't work out for him. Evograd, it's turn 7. You need a scoring threat. Instead, he just takes block and it fails. So Evo is not scoring, and Groudbot is going to win this one. It looks like 1-0. So kind of a mess on both sides. Groudbot's defense, good. I mean, it's pretty easy to play defense when you're 2, 3 men up for most of the half. Passive, but effective. We've seen setups that have been kind of ridiculous. Looks like no real thought was put into making those better. And it's not an obvious thing. I mean, Cyanide doesn't really do it either. They just have two setups programmed in for every team, and if you play the AI, they make one. And they use one or the other every single time. Gradbot, this player already moved, and then you put someone in the end zone to score. Yeah. So Gradbot not recognizing that it's turn 8 either is setting up for a score on turn 9. It doesn't really matter because he's won this game. And so there's 1-0 to the bright green Gradbot. Here's game 2. We're going to have a real quick break, and you can guess what's happening. Probably what kind of setup we're going to get. Evo has won the toss and gone on offense. And set up wedge line. Yeah, both teams are using that setup again. I'm gonna go get some more coffee. I'll be back in just a brief moment. All right, so we got a neutral kickoff event. It's just changing weather from nice to nice. This ball is in a really scary spot, though. You need to clear some people off. Again, he does the sort of let's start with a 1-die block, and again, it's a skull. I wonder if the bots are learning from this that 1-die blocks are not good. That's a scary ball pickup, and yeah, he does fail it, but he gets a really good scatter. So I think we can make some assessments about the two AIs and how they're doing, and some holes in their game. And yeah, we've talked about setups. Defensive setup is pretty easy to fix. Offense is a little harder, but it's definitely something that any future bot creator will need to put a good amount of thought and effort into. Um, both bots are way too happy to make 1-die blocks. I think we haven't really seen reroll management either. They're making 1-die blocks. Every time a block fails, it's an instant reroll. I mean, everything's instant. This is like a 35-minute video. I'm playing it at maybe 40% speed, just so we can kind of follow what's happening. But it's what I mean is there doesn't seem to be any thought like if something failed, is it okay to let it go? And maybe there's some of that. It's just hard to tell. This is the this short kick has turned everything into a very tactical sort of a game, and that's something that you would expect maybe the computers to be okay at. He just walked in and he's picked it up. He caught a scatter. Oh, there you go. Wait, what just happened there? Said that it said he caught the ball. Maybe yeah, he caught the ball and then it bounced, and then is there another guy there? So maybe it scattered from him to whatever. It's a little unclear what's happening, but bots are yeah. It scattered to another guy who picked it up, and he's all right now. Now things are a little safe, but it's a big scrum. These guys have all moved. It's yeah, another just another one die block. So that's the thing. Bots aren't really interested in making two die blocks, and oh, look at that. He starts a he started a block action, rolled a one die. He'd already used to reroll that turn, I think. Yeah, it was turn two. So nobody really seems interested in getting assists for two dice blocks. Uh, that's the thing. The bots are way too happy to make those agility three dodges, sometimes even through multiple tackle zones, just for positional reasons. Where you should just, let yourself. Yeah, you should just leave things where they are. Not every player has to move on every turn, and even if you're in a bad spot, there may be no way to get to a better one. And sometimes you just have to suck it up. They don't seem too interested in considering roles for different players. This is a more abstract sort of concern, but that's a thrower. He just tried to dodge himself free, failed, and got knocked over. But nobody's thinking of thrower as the guy who should have the ball in his hands. They've the lineups have just put him on the line of scrimmage. Hasn't been too useful. I'm interested in seeing what this catcher does the next turn or two. It seems like the bot would want to have him up here. Uh, Once you get him in scoring range, we'll, maybe you can get the ball out and get it to him. He's not doing much where he is. Oh no, you snaked the dodge. Yeah, all right. So Evo tried to. Oh, yeah, it's a little confusing from game to game because the home team is always red on the left, and the blue team is always on this side. But we switched sides so that Grodbot, who was red in the last game, is now blue, and Evo is now red. Anyway, Grodbot has successfully stolen the ball again. Well, semi-successfully. Red now has a chance to try and get it back, and it's pretty obvious, simple, easy two dice block right away. You want to do some safe moves first, standing some of these guys up. Not necessary because I don't know, maybe one or two of them would be used for recovering the ball, but certainly not all of them. That's a blitzer. Is a scoring threat now. What's this catcher is dodging back to pick it up. Where's his thrower? It's over here. The thrower was free to move. Could easily have come back, picked it up himself. So at least they do seem to like carrying the ball on a catcher. Yeah, well, both AIs are out of rerolls pretty early. Uh, a lot of the reason for that is just because they really like mega one die blocks, and those don't work out very often. Remember, these are human teams with only two block players on each team, so a lot of one dice blocks are going to be turnovers. Evo on its next turn, will it try to get the ball to this blitzer and score right away? Grodd is definitely going to commit a lot of people to stopping that, maybe even bringing this fellow back. But as it is, not as hard to score as it looks. I mean, you still have to get through the screen, but this guy's in one tackle zone. It's just a 3+ dodge away, and path to the end zone is wide open. So you can't run right through here and hand him the ball, but you can go around. This guy can dodge and come to the end zone. You can run around here and throw a pass to him. I don't like that as a play, but it's certainly possible. And it seems like the bots think, okay, I could score this turn. I need to go for it. And even if it's unlikely, well, it's better than 0% chance of scoring if I play more safely. Unfortunately, he's double skulled into a death and wasn't able to make any progress other than that. I mean, that was fine blocked, right? You free a guy, and maybe this player with the ball could have come forward first. This player as well, a bit of a screen, and then you're taking a 2 dice block to free up this man to help cut off the back, and you're just unlucky to roll double skulls, and of course unlucky to get your player killed as well. Part of the problem, of course, but you're too too happy to do dangerous rolls earlier in the half, and that's why you're out of rerolls. I was playing a game like this as a human coach, not the human players. I'd probably have 2 or 3 rerolls left because I would not be doing dangerous things that would require a reroll. Okay, so he blitzed the catcher and pushed him not off ball, but this guy's marked. The ball is double base. And blue is going to have to do something. Oh, look at that. He's oh, okay. So he's going to dodge handoff. It says he's starting a handoff action. That's just it's a fumble thing, right? Where you got to declare your pass or a handoff or something at the start of your player's turn. You can't just run up here and then say, "Oh, okay, I'm handing off now." And that's I think rules as written. Uh, I should mention because I forgot an hour ago that the rule set here being used is Living Rulebook 5. I'm not sure why 5 particularly, but if you're more familiar with 6 and the Cyanide's client is based on 6, they're very, very close to each other. So, there are some small differences, but probably nothing that's really affecting the game one way or the other. You can just assume we're using Cyanide type rules. All right, so he's dodge, handoff, and then this guy can just run in and score. 4 and yeah, this I guess this is GFI involved. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, 1 GFI, but uh, yeah, okay, yep, made the GFI. So there's Evo scoring. Not the most textbook offense, but it worked out. And now we're seeing the only setup that either team knows. Quick snap. Again, a better setup. Maybe if these guys are a little closer, you could correct for this being a bad setup. But a quick snap, nobody does anything. You see that with Cyanide. If you've ever played their AI2, sometimes you get something like a blitz. It'll just pass a turn and do nothing because it doesn't know what to do. And quick snap is one of those weird things that you kind of have to code specifically for it because it's not really an extra turn. It's just a thing where you can move some guys around. Anyway, Grodd screwed up his offensive turn, and Evo tried to come in and steal the ball, but it didn't work out because he fumbled it. But that was Grodd not recognizing that, oh my God, the ball is right near the line of scrimmage. That's a very dangerous position for a kickoff. I need to do something about it. So the ball is bouncing around, and where's it going to end up? It's going to end up on the ground. Is the ball bouncing more than it should? I feel like some people scattered it. It ran ended up here and then moved again afterwards. Is that more than the ball should be moving? And yeah, I'm not aware of any rule restricting your offensive or defensive setups, and really, that wouldn't make a lot of sense to me to even have something like that. But a couple of people have asked because it seems like the two bots have only one setup for both offense and defense, and it's not very good for either of them. Uh, anyway, we come to turn 8. Grodd didn't get himself a scoring threat, so we're just going to go to halftime with Evo winning 1-0. One thing that's perturbed the setups here is that Groddbot in blue is missing two positionals. That's a blitzer and that's his thrower. So the blitzer can't be on the line of scrimmage where he wants to be, right? Because that's kind of how they're set up. We're both down. It's not a turnover because he blocked with block. And now he's picking the ball up after throwing a one die. So we'll see if Groddbot is a little more interested in if it's feeling the urgency of the situation. We saw in the first game, Evo down 1-0 with the ball. Didn't make an awful lot of progress towards scoring and was even, 5, 6 turns into the half. Just randomly throwing blocks with his ball carrier instead of trying to get forward. This is a very deep kick with not a lot of support, but this is a catcher holding the ball. He's got plenty of movement. I don't think it makes sense to try and commit too heavily to stopping him from dodging down the sideline, I guess. I mean, there's no reason for this guy to be here. It's fine to have one or two players kind of pressuring, but the rest of these guys do not need to be here and should be more centralized. Maybe it's just the bot sees a threat that the ball might come straight through, and he's decided I'm going to cut this off. Instead, Rob just ran over here, threw a pass from catcher to catcher, and now he's just going to score. So that's the kind of thing that you would see the AIs in Cyanide do as well occasionally. In this case, scoring quickly, not so bad really. If you want to go for a win, I'm not sure if Groddbot is thinking I want to go for a win or if it's just thinking I want to score. And yes, his catcher is currently still KO'd. Not his catcher. I'm sorry. His thrower is still KO'd. So you didn't really have a thrower available for that pass, and catcher, why not? So now Evo's got 7 turns, and once again, it's another shallow kick, another very scary kick. And he's picked the ball up with a catcher. That's again his thrower is out too. His thrower is dead. So this guy's not coming back. You don't see the little skull over him because fumble graphics, but this player was killed in the first half. So if Evo wants to throw some passes as well, neither bot has shown any inclination to carry the ball on a thrower. And yeah, it's the bots don't seem to recognize that it's better to throw a 2 dice block than a 1. So in some cases, yeah, they have some interesting knowledge about screening built in, and Is this ball is pretty safe as it stands, but there are definitely some large gaps in their knowledge. And again, if you're not familiar with these two bots, Grodbot has is the one with all the Blood Bowl knowledge scripted into it, directly hard coded. And Evo is it's based on Grod and has some learning capabilities built in. But at the core, they're two pretty similar bots, so they're going to play similar ways. You would think, and uh, maybe it's just a little superficial at this point for me, but it's hard for me to say what Evo is doing differently with its learning knowledge built into it. Yeah, the two bots just seem like two copies of the same bot, and I know that's not the case. But whatever Evo is doing differently, it's not obvious at a first glance. Evo's done the same sort of thing. He's tossed his catcher in harm's way in hopes of getting an early score. Fortunately, he was knocked down. But if you have a wide open central area, you can knock this guy. He has set up a two dice block here, so you do that. You blitz this guy, and then you just move right up the middle as far as you can, because there are way too many people out here. Instead, he's taken the ball and dodged right through a screen. Uh, that seemed unnecessary, partly because he could have taken the route this guy just did. So maybe he got beat by cyanide pathing. Maybe he's gone a little too far forward, especially with this player not knocked down, because you can't get two more people here to form the cage, and the boss are going to want to. So I think what he'll do is take this guy and GFI, yeah, and then think, wow, I wish I had another player to put here, but I don't. So two dice of the ball is pretty easily there if you want it. And this could be a game deciding moment. Do they learn? Grodbot does not, to my knowledge, have learning built into it. EvoGrod does. We talked a bit about how it learns at the way back at the beginning of the stream, and I don't really want to stumble my way through it again. But it's got a sort of genetic based learning algorithm where it can look at a whole lot of games, and uh, it has different parameters that it uses to evaluate whether or not it should do something. And by changing those parameters around and seeing which ones work better, you take a bit of the good and a bit of the good from each AI that works, and then you just combine them into interesting ways. And that's sort of how your parents come together and their genetics kind of blend together, and you get a mix of them. And if your parents have terrible genes, you're going to end up below average. We can't all be above average. I'm sorry. Anyway, Groundbot was able to get the ball back, and he's kind of holding it. It's in contact, but he's got his whole team around the ball, so this is probably uh, pretty safe. Will Grodd be able to score from here? Here's one catcher. The other one is on the ground at the moment. I guess he'll have to stand up and run arm down here, but I think we'll probably see at least one of these catchers, maybe just straight up dodge, run around here. The bots don't do an awful lot of long term planning, even from within the turn. Uh, was that just a red dice push? Might have been, yeah. Okay, so he's cleared this player out. That's nice, and now has plenty of free people. This player will stand up and get into scoring range. We'll throw him the ball next turn. This player is likely to do the same thing. Yeah. And you can get the ball kind of safe down on the sideline. There's only a few people around that can reach. You can cut You have this player free to cut him off, them off. You can just kind of put a big screen along the sideline and bring the ball behind it. You should be, of course, moving these guys wherever it is you want to move them uh, before rolling blocks. Safe moves first, kids. That's uh, one of the uh, one of the old Blood Bowl sayings, and it's a good thing to keep in mind. That the thing is, what you need to do is be able to look ahead, not just say, "Well, I have 11 players I can move. It's time to move this one." You need to visualize where all of them are going to be. And it doesn't seem like the bots are doing much planning from within their turns. I mean, they're not changing their minds halfway through, like doing something and then doing something different. Okay. So Evo tried to base the ball and failed the GFI. What that means is Grod is just going to take the ball, swinging around here, throw it to one of these catchers, and try and score right away. And that's probably enough to get you a 2-1 win. He failed to pass, but he re-rolled it. And he caught the ball, and now you're away. You don't need to score here. There are GFIs involved. There's no need to score. You should do some. Well, I don't think this is only a lineman. He can't reach anyway. 2, 4, 6, 8. So the ball is perfectly safe. Nobody can get there. You might try and slow these guys down for another turn or two. Stall as long as you can. I don't think the bots do a lot of stalling. That's more of a deep strategic kind of thing that they don't maybe understand yet. So far, we've seen if I can score, I will. And if it's like a 3% chance to score, I'll go for it instead of just trying to protect the ball. Normally, I would not like basing guys like this. You're just giving up more blocks, but this is res. You don't really care if your catcher dies right now because it's turn 14 and he'll be fine afterwards. And anything to delay these players from getting back for turn or two is great. Evo is well. He brought one. No, he's bringing players in the wrong direction. The only thing he really has right now is to force you to score immediately. Instead, what is he doing? He's kind of just deploying people out here for no reason that's too clear to me, and then dodging this guy back to replace the player who was here in the first place. Doesn't really matter. Grabbot's going to score. He didn't have to. Again, he could have just run the ball all the way down to this corner where there's nobody who can reach him. But Evo is going to get a few turns to counter, and he shouldn't be getting them. So 3 turns and 8 players for the red side against 10 for the blue. There's the one die block, but at least he's doing it with a blocker or with a blitzer who has a block. As I said earlier, it seemed like they didn't really have a great concept of player roles. Not necessarily true. I mean, both bots have been carrying the ball whenever possible on a catcher. They don't seem to consider the thrower as any different from any other lineman. He doesn't have. He's got the same stats. He doesn't have any exciting skills, just sure hands and pass, which would be good for a ball carrier. But once you're holding the ball, well, sure hands is no longer important because there's no strip ball around. And pass is, well, we've seen some passing. So that is kind of nice to have. Grod going ham, but I mean, why? I don't know. It doesn't matter. This is his turn 8. Evo has no scoring threats. So the game's just basically over. One time where computers can occasionally do some really weird and hard to understand things. If you get into a situation where it doesn't matter, the game's over, right? No move that Evograd can do here is going to have any effect on the outcome of the game. So it can be hard to understand why it's choosing to do X or Y or whatever. It can't find a move with positive expectation, and if every single possible move leads to the same result, why not just play it randomly? And sometimes that's how things go. So Grindbot will go up 2-1. And this is a best of 5 series. It'll be up 2-0, right? This is game 2. 2-1 is the final score. We saw a 1-0 win and now a 2-1 win. Grindbot halfway home. He needs one more win. So 2/3 of the way home. I'm really tripping over my tongue today. And there you go. Game 3 coming up shortly in this best of 5. Evo is going to have to turn things around pretty quickly. Even a draw wouldn't help him all that much. So game 3, Grodd is in the red, and Evo is back to blue. Everybody's healthy, and we're using our same symmetrical screwed up lineup. I don't really need to whine about that anymore. And high kick, again, high kick. If you're going to put somebody under the ball, first of all, it should probably be your thrower who's should be carrying the ball. If not, why wouldn't you put a catcher? If you like carrying the ball and a catcher, and again, that's a bug. You're not allowed to take a man off the line of scrimmage because he's in a tackle zone. There's no way that Evograd has considered the situation where it's now down 2-0. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but I'm pretty confident that the bots aren't thinking about past games. It's not going to adjust its play in any way, knowing that it needs some wins immediately. And no appos. I can show you. Let's go back and show you the lineups real quick. 7 linemen, 2 catchers, a thrower, and 2 blitzers. It's also 3 rerolls, 1 assistant coach, 2 cheerleaders, and I didn't write this down, but I'm almost certain it's 3 fan factor for each team. And I'm keeping this green because if you're not used to looking at fumble graphics, it can be hard to tell what each player is. The linemen have the little spiky pads. The catchers are pretty clear. Excuse me. The thrower has a big white stripe on his helmet, and he's actually not wearing much armor. And the blitzers have their big face masks. Anyway, back to the game. Evo's got the ball and needs to win here, but again, as I was saying, I don't think it's aware of that. The ball is already based, so it hasn't really protected it well. But the ball is based by a catcher, and you can probably 3-dice blitz him off. Will he be tempted to use the ball carrier to block with? That is a blitzer carrying the ball. It's hard to see, but it is blitzer carrying the ball. So you have 2 dice right away to hit the catcher with block, and if you bring a few more people in, you can make it 3 dice pretty easily. Seems like a pretty solid turn for Grindbot. He's faced the ball, which means he wins. He's also knocked a bunch of players down. He's got 1 removal. That's a catcher. AI is pretty fond of using its catchers, so taking one away from it is going to hurt it quite a bit, I would think. Again, we knocked this guy down, but followed, so the ball is in contact with the man. Granted, it's a man on the ground, but still. There's no way he's getting a good block on the ball, so this is pretty safe. He does have block. A red dice would be a 1 in 36, and maybe he's stunned anyway. Uh, hard to tell. Yeah, his turn's over already. He must have been stunned. Ooh, oh, that's a problem. Grodd has now injured both catchers, so Evo is going to have a very difficult time of this offense. He's now 2 players down, and both of them are his catchers. And Grodd is just going into its screen mode. Now there's no players with dodge. I don't know if he's thinking that. There's nobody around who can dodge, but I mean, why wouldn't you take 1 or 2 of these guys here and make assists so you can have 2 dice blocks here instead of 1? I think that's what a human would do, but instead, the bot is just rolling 1 dice pows. Yeah, we don't have statistics for these games the way you would get them in Cyanide. You can't go and see like how many blocks each team made. I'm sure that's somehow available, but all I have to go on here is this big MP4 file, and I'm just watching it in a video player. I don't have game records or anything like that. Anyway, things do look pretty grim for Evograd. He's got plenty of room to move forward. You knock a few of these players down and then try and come into this space. There's no need for these guys to be screening this deep, this far away from the action. These are just linemen too. They're only movement 6. They can't really get relevant. But Grodd has gone into his its passive defense setup, which we saw in earlier games, and maybe not that bad. What is this guy doing? Is everybody shifting up? Or is this blitzer going to dodge later on in the turn? I think I would not be surprised to see. Yep, there he goes. He's trying to dodge, and it failed. So we re-rolled that, and now he's completed his screen. That's not the way to do it. If you do want to have a screen like that, you get people in place and you make the dodges into secondary spaces. You don't leave a big gap and then hope the dodge will work. Although, to be fair, it's a 1 in 9. I don't think these are the kind of things you want to use a reroll on. It's common at the end of your turn, once you've set up your defense in a way that's acceptable to you. Anybody in contact, you might just try and dodge them away, especially if they don't have any good blocks to make. The important part of that, though, is you're doing that at the end of your turn because you don't care if you fail. And so when you do fail, you just take the failure. The guy falls down, you're fine. You don't want to waste a reroll on that because rerolls are precious, and simply using one just to have one man standing at the end of your turn is usually not a good investment of your limited resources. Anyway, Evo Grodd making an okay go at it. He doesn't have catchers anymore, so he's using a lineman in the catcher role 1, 3, 5, 7. That's a single GFI to score. I think if this player gets ignored, we'll see a run through handoff attempt to score next turn. Grodd is just kind of shuffling people around, and the screen at the top of the field is completely doing nothing. And he's, it knows what a screen could look like. It knows how tackle zones work. It knows that this is really hard to dodge through. But what it doesn't seem to know is that there's no reason for anyone to want to go through here. Instead, the ball is down in the bottom half of the field where I can now score on a 3+2+, and probably will. All right, get a few people on the way. 1, 2. You might want to blitz this guy. You don't even really need to. You just run over here, make the handoff, and it's a GFI to score. All right, so Grodd's defense, it would be pretty solid if all this stuff in the top half was on the bottom half, but it was just some guys that weren't really accomplishing anything. Grodd thinking about scoring quickly, and he's got catchers and has sent one out to be a scoring threat. Evo Grodd should recognize that in this case, you really do need to be concerned about these guys. And you'll base one, probably double base him, and then blitz the other. And yeah, you got a 2 dice block right here. He takes a 1 die instead. We've seen this going on for a while. The bots, well, they just don't seem to care about 1 die blocks. Looks like Evo's plan to shut this player down is to kind of put a screen so you can't run right through. Tripod is going to run right through anyway, and even if it doesn't, yeah, here's 2 dice block. He's taking the 1 die with this player instead. Even hitting with this is fine to free up a man. Now it's 2 dice, and the 2 dice are in skulls. So maybe the bots have learned that you need to make 1 die blocks because the 2 dice blocks are double skulls all the time, and that's disappointing. Again, we said Blood Bowl is a difficult game for a computer to learn because it gets the wrong kind of feedback a lot. Unfortunately, things didn't work out here because he threw some dangerous blocks and wasn't able to get someone free to blitz the scoring threat, which maybe was going to happen later on, but too many skulls happened. And the scoring threat was free to just score. It's now very sunny. If you caught that, the line just, the whole screen just got a little bit brighter, and we just got a big old sun right there. That, of course, doesn't matter here, but going into the second half, that could decide the game. Evo's got 2 turns to try and score again. Again, he's lost both of his catchers early. This is the casualty box. They're both injured and not coming back. So he's playing with 9 and doesn't have. Oh, no, I'm sorry, correct that. He's playing with 10 because each team has a sub, but he's playing without his scoring men. So it's not going to be easy for him to score in 2 turns. Grodd has seen an opportunity to try and go for a score himself. That's maybe a little optimistic, but Evo's out of rerolls. If he fails to this pickup again and it scatters somewhere, you can just bring a guy down here and pick it up. But I don't think you need to commit half your team up here and another guy over here because it leaves your defenses a little too thin. He's bringing another man here too. So six players of his 11 are. Oh, never mind, he dodged. So now it's 7. What are these guys doing? Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter because it's Evo's turn 8. He's got no scoring threats. But yeah, so any move you make at this point doesn't really affect things. So you get some weird stuff like that. If it was me, I would just be trying to set up as many blocks as possible. Just because knowing that nothing else is really going to matter, let's go for what attrition we can get. And again, most of the time, that's not going to have any effect. This player dodged to get from here to here. That's not meaningful in any way. And it's still just a 1-die block. However, the ball's safe enough that Grodd is probably not going to get a turnover out of this. And there's no easy way to get to the ball because the only cage corner that's missing is the one down here. So we'll go into the second half on a 1-1 score. So I'll just take a moment to relax and watch these players move around more or less at random. Uh, Dodging people out. Didn't work out. Sweltering heat. What's going to happen with sweltering heat? It looks like it hasn't affected anybody. Or no, never mind. It's just very sunny, right? Did I get the wrong kickoff event? The wrong weather event? I thought it was sweltering heat. Maybe it's just very sunny. It's not clear. And again, this is just a video. I can't hover over here to see what it is. So maybe it was just very sunny because it didn't show any sweltering heat dice rolls. So apologies for that. I screwed up probably. Grodd has picked the ball up. What will he do to try and make it safe? Nothing. Instead, he will make some GFIs to get a quick scoring threat. And after that, he'll try and make the ball safe. So these few players here are protecting it pretty nicely. I might have one of them just one square farther down, just because the screen would be a little wider, but this is probably perfectly safe. Grodd with a draw even would mean he's won 2.5 points out of the 5, and would put himself in an even stronger position going forward. I don't think the bot is saying anything like that. And yeah, I haven't seen. We haven't seen a draw. There were some draws in the round robin stage, of course, but we've only seen 2 games so far, and they were both decisive. Evo does seem to recognize that this is an important threat, and he needs to do something about it. He's got the ball based and a big screen. When we saw this situation a couple of games ago, the ball carrying team just dodged right through, handed the ball off in the tackle zone, and tried to dodge all the way around. That was lunacy then, and it would be lunacy now. But if you're a computer looking at this position and you're thinking, "Gosh, I want to score," what do you do? First of all, the problem is you shouldn't be trying to score here. You should just be advancing forward. All these men are free. You can have a cage in this area, and then maybe at the end of your turn, you can try and dodge this fellow out and get him free somewhere away from the problems. But you don't want to give him the ball and bet your whole game on this. But if you do want to score, and you've decided that that's a worthy goal, really, what else do you have? You run forward this complete path all the way to the ball carrier. It's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10. So this is the catcher. He can get there with 2 GFIs, make a handoff in 2 tackle zones, and then dodge right through. That's an absurdly low percentage play, and I don't think any human would ever do it. But if the AI has decided that it wants to score, that's the best it's going to get. So will it go for it? It has in the past. It looks like it's not going to. All right, so that's nice. It's just on the much more conservative and human sort of play of protecting the ball, and I'm really impressed because I was not expecting it to do that. Now he could certainly be farther forward, right? These guys, there's no reason not to be a couple of steps forward, have the cage here instead of here. But I mean that's good. Grodd has recognized that it doesn't need to score quickly. Or that, or it's decided that the odds of it scoring quickly are so low that it shouldn't try it. It made one dodge, succeeded, and then ended his turn. He could have continued dodging. I'm not sure why he didn't. Especially because you're just getting 2 dice back down here. And this player's now down and stunned, so he's not a scoring threat for a while. Evo looks like is committing to the deep screen. But he's got too many players, again, on the sideline where they're unable to react to a change of direction. Red on its next turn can pretty easily just go this way. All right, you're going to get a block here. This man's on the ground. Maybe we blitz you, and you can make a lot of progress forward. Way back a couple of years ago, there was a player named Lupak who was at the time one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Blood Bowl streamer on Twitch. Coined the term YouTube cage that has just been brought up in chat, and it's a simple X cage, but you call it a YouTube cage because people would say, you would say, people see it on YouTube, they assume it's good, and they just do it. And a cage is nice. It's better to protect the ball than not to. But there are a lot of situations where it's inappropriate. It's not necessary. It's using more of your resources than you need. And yeah, we're seeing some of that from the bots here. You don't need to have a perfect cage at all times. This is a time where it would have been nice. Instead, the bot is just potatoed forward. There's no reason to do that. The ball is very clearly unsafe. You're just getting it blocked, and I'm sure you can see that if you're a bot. I don't know why it decided to try that, but it just went for a potato, and it's been duly punished. So Evo has recovered the ball. It's not completely safe either. That's a GFI that he had to make and failed. So there are enough people around that you can hit the ball back again. That's an assist, and this is just a 2 dice blitz. Didn't blitz the ball. He just moved 2 men in here to mark him. I don't know if the plan is to do that later. Or what? It's a 1 die block into a skull, re-rolled it into a knockdown. So now I guess you could still just make this dodge, or you can blitz with the catcher. These 2 men are, well, this one is. Oh no, he's just dodging away. So Grodd, yeah, even after turning the ball over. He still had some advantage, right? He had most of his team near the ball, and most of the blue team was a little far away to support it. He just pissed that advantage away by not doing anything with it. So now blue can try and consolidate, and even go for a score later on. Instead, he's just GFIing some guys around here for no clear reason. You, I don't think we'll see any chain pushing. I don't know if the bots even know how that works or if it's possible. What are you guys even doing? You're making some weird blocks against the wrong players and just kind of leaving the ball here. And the one die into a skull. Blue starts his turn immediately by rolling double skulls up here. So the ball has been based for like 3 turns, and nobody has much interest in doing anything with it. And they're just that nobody can roll knockdown dice anyway, so they're just they're just trading punches. Game has gotten a little silly. This would be a lot of fun if it was just humans playing. But after all of these blocks, finally the ball is no longer base because everyone here is on the ground, and we can get up here and run away. It'd be nice to get some kind of scoring threat as well. That's a blitz to get him free. Maybe this guy will be a scoring threat. Come up this way because Evo could go for a win. It's not looking too promising right now. They've got only 2 more turns after this. Your thrower is here on the ground instead of anywhere near the ball. Oh, I'm just kind of running away. That's all right. It's not that all right because these people are all free. It's very easy for red to just get everyone through onto the ball. Doesn't have a blitzer free, so I guess you're using a lineman. Are you even going to hit the ball? We've seen that sometimes they just don't. I mean, it's not terrible to blitz this player instead, because he is kind of a soaring threat. And that's both down. Breaking your own armor, stunning this player, that's fine. That takes him out for the rest of the game. That means if Evo is going to score, it's probably with this guy. Instead, it opens up with more double skulls, so pretty unfortunate. And I guess that means this is going to be a draw. Unless Grodd can find a way to get the ball free, which he does. Can he score this turn? He's got a man who could score. You could get down here. You can pick it up with this player. He picks the ball up with his scoring threat. So I guess he's not going to score. This is another player who could have just come down here. And yeah, we saw this in prior games as well. The bots don't seem to recognize that it's turn 8. And if you want to score, you got to do it now. There were some times in early games or in early turns of the games where it says I need to score now and does it. So if the bot recognized that it needed to score right away, it's certainly capable of finding a play that would result in a touchdown. It's just not strategizing enough to say I could win the game right here. Instead, I'm going to accept a draw and not even try. Granted, a draw very good for the red team because they won the first 2 games of this best of 5. So a draw just it kind of chisels off one more chance for the other team to come back. That means that after 5 games, the worst they could possibly finish is 2.5, 2.5. But I'm sure the bots are not thinking that way. So there's your non-decisive game. It's a 1-1 draw. Grodbot probably should have won that one. Maybe not won, but he didn't even try at the end there. So this is game 4. Grodbot in blue is up 2.5 to nothing. All he needs is a draw to guarantee himself first prize. First prize, $500 US, by the way, for the team that wins this. So pretty significant and pretty nice. We got another high kick, and once again, you're not allowed to take a man off who's marked and move to high kick. Maybe that's something that was in LRB 5. I don't know. It's very difficult to find a copy of LRB 5 to look that stuff up. It's clearly not allowed in LRB 6, and I don't think it would be in 5 either. But I don't know. Maybe we'll try and find a copy of LRB 5 later. I do have one somewhere. Anyway, we're just doing the same typical bot things. Bunch of 1 dice blocks. Ball. Well, it's pretty far back. There are enough gaps here where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This ball is not safe. You can get to it with a couple GFIs from this catcher and this blitzer here, and hit the ball. Maybe even blitz it. You probably need to knock down one of these guys here first. Bring in a cancel assist here. Hit this player for 1 die. Where is that guy going? I don't know. Where's the ball going? Ball is just coming closer to our lines. And yeah, I think one potential play is just to hit this guy, and then you have a wide open shot at the ball. Another reasonable play is to blitz the scoring threat because Grodbot is going to try and get it to one of these catchers early. Unfortunately, what I think is going to happen now is that Evo is going to ignore the other one because it only has 1 blitz, right? You could mark this guy. You could even dedicate 4 or 5 players to a screen. Instead, he's just tried some silly blocks that didn't work, and he's ignored the fact that there's a man here who's going to get the ball and score. I saw that coming. I'm sure all of you saw that coming. The bots kind of didn't, and that's one thing that's it's not easy to program this stuff, kids. I'm telling you. You look at a position, and you're like, here, I see what's wrong with it, and I can see what's coming and what's going to happen next. But it's one thing for a human to understand that intuitively, and another entirely for a computer to have that built in. So Evo now certainly behind the 8 ball. The team in red needs to get a win here, or the series is over. In that situation, an Arian bot scoring really quickly seems it looks pretty reasonable. Evo is responding to doing the same thing. Really likes making these GFIs to get the ball man here. One way you could avoid that, of course, is just to set up better. You don't need to set this guy up way back in the backfield just to make 2 GFIs to get here. So there's no strategic connection between your setup, which is just fixed, and what you're trying to do. Grod has responded the way we've seen Grod do in the past. He's blitzed this man, wasn't able to knock him down, and that is 2 dice with block, so totally reasonable blitz. And then everybody else is just kind of screening. We're not sure if Evo will recognize this as a situation where it needs to score quickly, or if it does, it's probably going to have to try some kind of handoff pass combination. There's its thrower. Again, not ever picking the ball up. I don't think either thrower has ever touched the ball in this series. But it looks more likely what's going to happen is he'll just kind of come forward, recognizing either that you don't need to score right away or that trying to score right away is just too difficult. Instead, we should just take whatever forward space we can. We can do that YouTube cage thing. I probably don't need somebody here, especially with this man cutting off these people. No one's really coming around to hit the ball from behind. No one's coming from this side either. And it's not terrible. It's just it's a waste of resources. These linemen could be farther forward, either you're back here helping to cut this off. It'd be nice to have somebody down here a little bit, maybe to spread through. You kind of want to wedge your way in. And Grodd is he going to remember that you need to deal with this player? If not, we may just come see Red just swing around and give him the ball and counter score. We saw one really atrocious potato, but for the most part, not really. Generally, what we've seen are a lot of the scores like we just saw, where you have a catcher and you run him a couple squares into opposing territory, and then next turn you hand him the ball and let him run. We saw in game one, one of the bots tried that, despite the fact that he was marked and had to dodge through a screen. I said, 4+, 4+, 4+, 3+. I'll try it anyway, and it didn't go so well. Okay, he's trying to dodge through this. That looks like potato. It's probably the plan was to make this catcher dodge right through here to get the ball to him to score, right? And it didn't work out. He failed this dodge. Not a hard dodge, right? That's just a 1 in 9, and it didn't work. So instead, he fell down and dropped the ball. So that's good news for Grodd. If Grodd can recover this and score again, that puts him in a commanding position where he probably just wins the series. Groddbot, where's your thrower? He's over here, not holding the ball. And tried to pick it up, didn't work out, but the ball has scattered to a spot where it's very difficult for Red to recover here. Couldn't do anything, so Blue has now got the ball, and hey, look at that, he's kind of potatoing. Kind of, but not really, because you can actually protect the ball here. Right, these men are all free. That's a blitzer. He can come up and cover the side here. And here you actually do kind of need all 4 cage corners. And there you go. We've got them. Knowledge of what a cage looks like is, as we said, built in to Groddbot and Evo as well, because it's based on Grodd. So Evo has some serious problems here. Let's see what he's got. He's gonna blitz the catcher. That's well, okay. He's decided the catcher can score. None of these guys can score, at least right away. So this is priority number 1, and that's fine. Especially you can't in the game situation. You can't afford to go 2-0 down here. And everybody else is just going to see the deep double screen that the bots seem to like quite a bit. It's not that great though. There's a big weakness up to the top. You probably blitz this man, and then everybody else can run right through, and there's a big gap, and there's no stopping you. You're only going to make 6 squares of progress, but that's plenty. How far back are these guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can't. These are linemen. They can't blitz you without a GFI. But you could certainly bring one through as an assist, and then you have more people free. Instead, he just came in and blitzed this guy from behind. Grog planning. I guess his plan is to plan, such as it is to try and get the ball to this catcher to score. I mean, that's a nice plan B, but it really should not be plan A. Plan A should be move the man who's already holding the ball forward. Right. That's the ideal in Blood Bowl is the man who's holding the ball is the one who scores. Right. On your offense, you pick the ball up on turn 1 with the guy who's going to score on turn 8, and then you never do anything risky with it in the intervening turns. Right away, this player, his scoring threat was now just killed. So now it's Groudbot with no catchers left. The bots use their catchers very aggressively, sending them forward unprotected, and they're getting blitzed and they're getting killed. In the last game, we saw Evo had lost both of his catchers early, and then didn't have the best backup to score with. And this time it's Groudbot, whose 2 catchers are now both in the casualty box. It's going to have to play the second half with nothing. At least Evo will have the ball and a chance to draw. I don't think I've said this a few times. I don't think the bot is aware that it needs to win. It's going to have to go for 2 scores in the second half. Will it play for a 1-1 draw? I don't know. Yeah, it does like to score quickly, so we may see it do that and just do the right thing for no obvious reason rather than the right thing for the wrong reason. He's going to have a 1-man advantage. Is that a catcher he left? Yeah, he left catcher on the bench. I don't know why he would do that. But he has. I guess you only need one catcher. He's going to do the GFIs because he always does the GFIs. This is the plan. I mean, he's moving backwards too. It doesn't really matter because of the way the angles are. But every offensive turn starts with a catcher making 2 GFIs to get in scoring range. Yeah, we've seen some flaws in these AIs. They don't plan very well. They don't seem to consider the state of the game in their decision making. Okay, it's a little unfair to expect Evo to recognize that this is a must-win game, and therefore it should try to score twice. It wouldn't be unreasonable, I think, if it went for a draw here. I mean, no human would do it, of course, because a human would be thinking, I'm 2.5 points down, and this is game 4 of the. All right, I'm only 2 points down. I'm 2 wins down with 2 games to go. I need to win both my final games. That's the state of the series. We may get a 2 dice on the. No, we're not going to get a 2 dice on the carrier. Will we get a 2 dice block on this guy? I think what's going to happen, if anybody does it, it'll be the man who's carrying the ball. He's just going to block this man. And follow up. I mean, it's not awful because you did knock him over, and now he's going to take a scoring threat and use him as a cage. So Long-term planning, yeah, the whole point of bringing this guy out to here is that he's a scoring threat right away. And if you're going to just bring him back the next turn, what the hell is the point of risking all these GFIs for? That's the kind of thing that any AI would struggle with. Just connecting moves from turn to turn. All it's do is that a scoring threat, or is that just a guy going here for no reason? I don't know. That is a blitzer. It's one of your best players. I'm not sure why you would send him out here by himself, other than the fact that you have no catchers, so you don't have a catcher for him. Maybe you're playing to one die the ball. We know that it probably isn't going to happen. And certainly, two dice in the ball is not a thing. We may even see Grodd dodge this player out to try and put him over here somewhere. I mean, he's a lineman. He's on the ground. He can't go very far. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that might be the square he targets. No, okay. He didn't move him at all. Maybe his armor was broken. The the interface doesn't make it clear if somebody is stunned or not. There's probably a way to tell, but it's not easy for me. Yeah, Crowdbot doesn't really need the scoring threat here. He has drawn two players away, so I guess that's nice. But that's thinking on a level that I don't think is occurring. And oh, it just occurred to me I was complaining about this guy not being on the field. That's the casualty box. I'm sorry. That's a mistake I made a few minutes ago, saying why are you not putting him on the field? Oh, he's already injured. Yeah, I'm sure people were yelling at me, but I just didn't even notice it. And yeah, that's my bad, my mistake. Three of the four catchers are now injured because the catchers are not being protected. They're being used as advanced threats, and also both coaches are keen to GFI with their catchers more than necessary. Okay. All right. This catcher is now back to being a scoring threat, but it looks like we're just going to get a cage rebuilt here. And yeah, Evo not in a hurry to score, which I think it's fine. Uh, of course, yeah, it needs a win. It needs to score quickly and create a turnover somehow. But the bot isn't can't really be reasonably expected to be aware of that. Uh, Even the framework of the tournament, uh, the program that's running this tournament, probably doesn't even tell the bot if what the situation is on the overall tournament. So it just doesn't know. I know it was mentioned somewhere in the rules bots aren't allowed to write anything to a hard drive, so it couldn't be keeping track of anything like that. And I don't think the structure is telling it that it needs a win. So if it's going to play safely and settle for a draw, that's not something I'm going to be picking. Catchers, they should be AV7. I can after the game, I'll pause it and double check, but I'm almost certain they're AV7. This. So that's probably one reason why you're seeing. Okay, now all four catchers are injured. Why you're seeing catchers take a lot of casualties because they don't have the armor to hold up. And the bots do seem to recognize that a catcher is a good player to get the ball to because he's got more movement. He's finally given the ball to his thrower, who's going to double GFI into the end zone. So Evo has scored. Wasn't, I know, not really necessary at that point, but he saw the opportunity and took it. And yeah, okay, this is very sunny. The weather changed again, and recognized that extra brightness and that little sun logo. So when I thought it was sweltering heat a few games back, turns out I was incorrect. It was just very sunny. Evo needs to get to that ball quickly. He's got 3 turns to try and steal it and score to win this game and extend the series. If not, this is going to be the end. I haven't really tried to make a pathway through, but at least he's found a 2 dice block. This player could have just stepped here instead, and then that's 2 dice as well. Instead, it's 1 die into knock yourself down because skulls happen pretty frequently. It's not obvious to me if the bots consider block to be a valuable skill. Does it influence their decision making at all if the player that's making a block has block or not? I don't know. Granted, there were only 2 players on each team with block. The rosters were a little weird for this. You only get 2 blitzers, and how do you use them? I don't know. Broadbot is throwing a couple of men forward. He's hoping, I guess, to try and get a throw here to score. That's pretty cool. It would be cooler if his thrower had the ball, and instead his thrower is here making 1 dice. Evo pouring men forward, that's reasonable. That's kind of what I would do. It's also nice to see that Evo has saved a reroll. Maybe he's just been lucky and hasn't failed anything. These guys are going, there's no reason to bring people up here. They should be coming down through the middle, I would think. And these players here, they're screening, maybe should just be marking scoring threat linemen. These are just linemen. It's nothing to worry about. So what's Garad got? He can run the ball forward, throw a long pass to one of these guys, and then run away. You can come down here. You can throw it to this man, who can then come through, hand off. You can just bring everybody back. Where's the ball going? It's pass action. Okay, so he succeeded the pass. It's 5+. He rolled a 6. That's cool. But he threw it to the guy who needs 2 GFIs to score, and he's done it. And there's Grodbot, with 1 turn left to go, is going to win the series and the $500 first prize. Runner-up prize, $300. That's not bad either, so pretty good for both of you. But yeah, this is going to be the end. So congratulations to Grodbot and commiserations to Mr. Evo Bot. Hard to really say that one bot played better or worse than the others. Just a little bit of dice happens sometimes. That's Blood Bowl, and they both play kind of similarly. We've seen some flaws. there were 4 AIs entered. They ran a fifth one that just makes random moves just as a control. A couple of the bots couldn't even beat the random moves consistently. These were by far the 2 best coming out of the group stage. And on another day, maybe Evo would be he could have come out on top. But we've seen what things for Rod to work on in the future. Better offensive and defensive setups. Apparently, there's only one that the bot ever uses, and it's not very good for defense at all. It's sometimes okay on offense, but really your offensive setup should be based on what the defense does and not something pre-programmed. Anyway, there you have it. Congratulations, Grodbot, winning 3 games in a draw out of the 4. That makes you the champion. We've got here's the round robin game stage. Grodbot finished 34-5-1. Evo was 31-5-4. Random somehow drew 15 games. These 2 A2C and No One are both using more sophisticated AI learning techniques, but they weren't able to learn how to play Blood Bowl well enough to beat Grodbot or EvoGrod. And that's, it's not really all that surprising. It's a very difficult game to learn. It's counterintuitive. You get if you're basing your strategy on getting good feedback from I do X and I win, therefore I should do more X. It's Blood Bowl. A lot of times you make bad moves and win, and a lot of times you make good moves and don't win. So it's very difficult for a learning AI to learn the right lessons. There's also there's no great corpus of master Blood Bowl games to learn from. If you're trying to teach an AI to play chess, you can download millions and millions of games played by grandmasters over the last century or so, and it can learn to play a pretty solid game just by watching those. There's nothing like that for Blood Bowl. So anyway, the final ranking: Grogbot first place. Congratulations, Mr. Moore. $500 prize. Evo Grod 300 split by your 3 developers here. No One in third place. Not so bad for you guys either. And the A2C bot in fourth. It's been fun. It's been certainly interesting to see the state of the art. There's definitely a ways to go, but I don't think that would surprise anybody. It's Blood Bowl, a very difficult game to learn. We're talking about how you would do things in if you were creating an AI. I would probably work from a base a lot like Rod. I would not put an awful lot of trust in a learning algorithm to try and learn how to play Blood Bowl. I mean, maybe that'll work, but the sort of game it is, it's kind of difficult. The people who arranged this competition, they when they announced it originally in 2018 with um, in a conference proceeding, they said at one point they tried playing the random bot against itself, and after 350,000 games, not a single touchdown was scored. So that's the kind of game Blood Bowl is. Let's see if I've even got it. Yeah, currently we've tested a random agent in 350 games against itself, and it never managed to score a point. That is indeed remarkable. I guess you can imagine that if you're a Blood Bowl player making just random moves, what are the odds that you're going to move a guy onto the ball, roll the dice necessary to pick it up, and then randomly move him forward all the way to the end zone? It's by itself, it's quite a challenge, and a lot of learning algorithms start from that basis of just making random moves. It sounds dumb, but imagine a chess playing AI that makes random moves, and uh, it loses a bunch of games because it keeps throwing its pieces away. Eventually, figures out you got to protect your pieces and not give them away. It learns that it's more likely to lose if it gives away a queen than if it gives away a pawn, and that's how it figures out that queens are more valuable. It gets all that feedback. You don't get the feedback from Blood Bowl, so you don't know. Anything that if I was going to do, it would start a lot like a Grodbot, where it has domain knowledge coded in. It knows what to do. Um, Last time we were having a chat about this, I thought one of the first things I would do is a tactical turn 8 solver, given just a random position where you've got the ball and you have to score this turn, find the best way to do it. And from there, maybe work backwards. I'd also try and have a thing where it know the game, not the game, the game playing agent has a set of different states it's in where its current goal is updated. And the goal is not just run everyone towards the ball and score. Maybe you start with passive defense and try and score quickly, try and stall, try and score slowly. I don't have the ball, then the goal maybe be either can I challenge it? If so, try and make a sack somehow. If not, it falls back into screening. But we one thing we saw with these AIs is that they don't really have any sort of long term plans happening, even long term from one turn to the next. It starts one turn saying, "Okay, I have this catcher. I can make some GFIs and put him in scoring range, and I'm going to scoring threat." And then on the next turn, it says, "Oh, I have this catcher. I can use him to base somebody else somewhere. He's not a scoring threat anymore because I wasn't thinking from turn to turn that I need to consistently use him to score with."